Pod in My Noggin, hosted by CK Sims, creating a platform to elevate, educate, and heal by creating a space where people can share their stories of struggle, triumph, and redemption. CKS Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of season 2, Pod in My Noggin. And I am so excited about this particular episode because I am joined by the legendary Jenn Lord. And for those of you who are watching along last podcast, or, season 1, Jenn was my first guest ever. First guest ever. And so what's really interesting about this, and my best friend and I were talking about this over the holidays, and we were trying to work out when we were going to get this scheduled in. She had said something along, she was great, but she was like, couldn't you start and then schedule her in after? And I was like, no. And she's like, why? I'm like, and I had to think about why. And I realized that I am a fiercely loyal person. And the show could not start without Jenn Lord being back on as the first guest. And I don't know if you remember all the way over a year ago now, but like I refer to you as my Jen Aniston. And in my head, that is cemented. So as long as the show continues, I hope that you'll always come back and be my first guest. And we'll make it work somehow. But yeah, so I am terribly excited about having you here because I think that was a big thing for me, right? A year ago, having you as my first guest. We had such a wonderful time. I often look back at that podcast and just it really set the stage for me, I think, for conversations. I had 42 guests last year.
Wow.
It set the stage for all of those conversations to be relaxed and enjoyable. And, I got feedback from that as well. As it's not an interview, if you will. It's just a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But Jen, thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy schedule to come on my humble little podcast and be the first guest for season 2 as well.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. I've actually been looking forward to it. I remember that. As soon as you said, I'm your Jennifer Aniston, I was like, Jennifer Aniston is one of my most favorites. And the fact that she was on Ellen and she was Ellen's person. And then you said that, I was like, my heart, it feels so good. Yeah, I felt like a 50 out of 10 as soon as you told me that.
Good, but I see, and I always, right from our first conversation, I always thought you were a 50 out of 10. Right? Like, just all around. So, I reached out to you. I don't even remember. It was before Christmas, maybe, or after Christmas. I don't remember.
It was a hot minute.
It's been a while, right? Once they first reached out, and you said that there was a lot that happened in 2024. And I noticed I went today, and I told you this too, I went to go back through your Instagram for the year and like rewatch all the reels. And there's significantly less this year. However, I want to point something out while there is less posts, the messaging behind the post that you're sending out has like gone from 0 to 10,000. And like, I was on this journey with you. I have goosies because just watching what you were posting. And there was one we talked about, you're going to get to talk, I promise. I'm really excited. I have so much to say. We talked about last the and if at the commercial break, we'll see if we can throw that in somehow. But the original reel that you posted that caught my attention a year and a half ago, if you will, was you showing immense vulnerability in trying to capture shots in the lake. And there was people around and all of those sort of things, and how much you struggled with that, but how you pushed through it and you got through it. And then I'm watching along your reels today, and I see this one where it looks like you're in a desert, kind of, and you have a briefcase, and you say, there are so many people here, but I don't care. I'm taking shots. And it was one of those like full circle moments for me. I'm like, okay, okay. I'm like, what's this all about? So anyway, I want to pass it over to you. Bring us back to early 2024 and walk us through the year.
Oh my goodness. That feels like early 2024 feels like it was
A long time ago.
years ago. Yeah. Yeah. There's been so much that's changed. So at the beginning of 2024, where was I? Do you remember?
At the beginning of 2024, you were living with your partner,
Yeah.
who was you were okay. I know there's something there, but I mean, at the time, you had reported that you
Yes.
were living with your report partner, and they were very supportive. You had got your disc
Right.
in the coffee machine, and your mom's in the background. See, this is a sign that your year's going to be so amazing. Do you remember? I remember everything. So,
Oh, yes. I totally remember that. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. So at the beginning of 2024, I believe that's when I first started working, or towards the end of 2023, I started working with Lacrosse Canada,
Yes.
which was a huge stepping stone for me. And from that, I ended up getting another job opportunity with working with Rugby Canada as well, filming the women's national team. And that was both experiences with both teams were absolutely unreal, and it was like always a dream of mine to get those. Um, One of my dreams from like when I was younger was actually like film Canada's national teams in a sport. I didn't care which one, and I ended up nailing two of them. And then I believe went on another van trip because we were going down to Disneyland with my family. It was like 4 years in the making. And the day we were going to go to Disneyland, COVID shut down the park. So then, yeah, our Disneyland plans got canceled. And then another 4 years later, we finally got the whole family to go. There was, I think, 18 of us at the end, like in total.
I saw some of those
Cousins,
pictures. They looked amazing.
grandparents, aunt, uncle, my immediate family, and my partner at the time was also there. And that was the most unreal thing. We got my grandparents to go on Grizzly Bear Rapids. I will send you the video so that you can
Oh,
see
wow.
that. So funny. Oh my goodness. My grandfather, he's 90 years old. Could you imagine that? Being 90, going on a roller coaster ride?
Mm-mm.
That's
I
insane.
can't imagine being 43 and going on a roller coaster ride either. So, but yeah, that's
And
crazy.
yeah, yeah. And so like during this whole time, I am not employed by anyone. I'm freelancing this whole time. Um, and freelancing is very exhausting. You have to hunt down your own work. You have to make sure people are paying you in like you're dealing with invoices, you're dealing with your own accounting, all that sort of stuff. And you have to do the work of your business as well. Um, And so, like, during this period, I was getting quite exhausted. And so, me and my partner at the time had wanted to move to the island, like Vancouver Island in Canada. And throughout these early months of the year, I started searching online for jobs and stuff like that, and ended up applying for the job that I'm currently in, which is I work for Colson Aviation now as a videographer and photographer. Um, and it's an aerial firefighting company. Pretty cool. But before that, I did van life. We came all the way down the coast and we went into Arizona and went up through Utah, visited all the national parks. And during this journey, one of our cats passed away. Um, and while we were in the van, we were camping out in like the middle of nowhere. It was like 2 hours from the nearest town. And so we couldn't get to a hospital in time. Not that the vet hospital would have been able to do anything. Our poor baby boy was they were both rescued. Both the cats were rescued, and this one had been malnourished and had like many medical issues from the day we got him. And it was like within 30 seconds of him waking up, he was gone. It was super fast. The most upsetting and disturbing thing I've ever been through with an animal. Is like we didn't know what to do. I remember holding him and he was limp, and I was I tried doing CPR. I tried doing like everything that I could think of to try and help him. But he was gone super quick. We think it was something to do with his heart, and that's around when. And there was a lot of troubles going on with the one of the companies I was working for or working with, editing videos, and so that's around the time of that video where I was like in the suitcase and with the suitcase and stuff like that, and I was like, I don't even care at that point. I was tired from hunting down businesses. I was tired of hunting businesses to actually pay me for the work that I did. Our cat had just passed. Me and my partner were going through like quite rocky period, and so like all of those big heavy things were weighing on me, and like financially was not in a good place at all. And so at that point, I was like, there had been this one. I saw this briefcase randomly in a thrift store. I think it was somewhere in Utah. I'm not entirely sure. It might have been Arizona. I think it was Arizona actually. And I immediately had those pictures pop into my head of like, Jen, like you're overworked. You're not giving yourself time to rest. You're not giving yourself a break. Um, and I can't give myself a break because financially I can't. Like, so it was kind of like that feeling that I was trying to capture. Then there was also another artist that was kind of like inspiring me at the same time that I did, I think either on the same day or the one day after each other, where I was like in the all black outfit with the
Yes.
suitcase and the umbrella. And that one was inspired by Anderson. Oh no, what's his name? Anderson? He does films where it's like very like quirky. Oh, it's totally skipped my mind what his name is, but I think it's Anderson or something like that. But they're very quirky films and very different than the norm. And like I tried to capture his essence in those photos, which I actually got comments from people saying it looked like his stuff, and I was like, yes.
You won. You did it. You
Yeah,
achieved.
yeah. But yeah,
Oh,
the briefcase one, the reason I didn't care anyone was there was because my brain space was so full. Every shitty thing that could happen, excuse my language, everything that could happen happened in that moment. And so I was just like, I'm just gonna do what I need to do to release the feelings I'm feeling, and I don't care who's watching. So then that's how that photo came.
how important is that though, right?
Oh, so
It,
important.
it's like this is should be where we are naturally as human beings, is that we do what we need to do to release our feelings safely, of course. Always have to throw out the caveat, of course, safely, and without harming others or
Hmm.
oneself. But yes, to release those feelings. When you were telling me the story about your cat, I'm sitting here and having like, I think fighting back sort of tears because, and no, I will not cry. I will not. I will not. Mima, who is my rescue cat, who was only supposed to have 6 months to live when I got her, lived for 8 years.
Oh,
She
that's
passed
beautiful.
away in May, and it wasn't sudden in the sense it was sudden, but it wasn't sudden because I had to put her down.
Okay.
She started losing her sight, and she started having little seizures.
Yeah.
And I called the vet to the house, and they took a look at the cat, and they said, she's having micro seizures. They're going to get worse. What do you want to do? And so, the same as you, I didn't have to give CPR, but like
Yeah.
I held her in my arms, and as
It's
she passed away, and I was not okay.
oh yeah, no.
It's your baby. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, that's your baby. That's, you care for these animals and you love them as if they're your family, and then you have to let them go or watch them go. Like, that is painful.
It is also very, very hard, I found, for me to comprehend holding this beautiful little soul that's living and like is like the most gentle soul I ever had. Um, to then watch that soul leave and it's just left with the body. I was like, how what? Like it was
Mhm.
like I had experienced death in many forms before, but never in a sense where I'm holding the
Yeah,
body.
it's because I realized, oh, so I almost lost it there for a second.
I know I'm feeling it.
So I realized, because I wanted her to pass at home and feel safe, right? When I got her, I I'll tell the story quickly. It's been on my podcast. I wanted a kitten. I did not want an adult cat. This was like 8+ years ago now. And I was resolute in the fact that I was getting a kitten. And I was scrolling through Facebook one day, I think it was like a Thursday, maybe Friday, and I see the face of Mima, and she's like laying in someone's arms as a baby, right? Like a baby. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh my God, she's so cute. And I would totally hold her as a baby. I totally would do that. I was like,
Yeah.
nope, keep going. And then the whole weekend, I couldn't get her out of my mind. So on the Monday, I remember it being a Monday, I got back on Facebook and started scrolling because I didn't know who tagged it, who pushed it.
Yeah.
I had to scroll. I must have scrolled for hours until I found that little face. And she had feline leukemia. She was very symptomatic. She was locked in a basement currently because she couldn't mingle with other cats because it's transmissible through like saliva or
Right.
whatever. And I said, and it said like 6 months max that this baby has left to live. Took her to the vet, or went to the vet, sorry. I went through the work and they said, you can get her some medication if you want to make her more comfortable, or you can allow nature to take its course. So I took this cat in with a very clear mindset that for the remainder of her life, she would not know fear, she would not know hunger, and she
Yeah.
would be fed and loved. And to me, I'm like, I'm doing this for 6 months. I'll get a kitten after, right?
Right.
But no, love conquers all because 8+ years later, she's still dirtying up my floors. So, but you know what I mean? So, but I couldn't believe that I had to put her down. But what you just said is I held her in my arms and I wanted her to pass knowing that she was being held by her dad. She was loved, that she was safe. I talked to her. I sang to her. I always picked her up and sang to her, and she would
Hmm.
meow and paw. And I remember just bawling, Jen. Like I was a mess. And I think it was
Me
just
too.
about maybe 2 or 3 minutes after she had gone. Like she was, I realized something came over me. And I'm like, I'm not holding Mima anymore.
Right.
It's the body of Mima, but
Yeah.
Mima's not in there. And so when you said that, I'm like, I remember that very much because
Oh,
it's
it is.
a crazy feeling.
I've just, like my whole body just got goosebumps. Yeah, it's a feeling like no other. Yeah, I just like it made me think about like like as close as like Bolero was my cat's name, as close as Bolero was to me. I can only imagine the feeling of like someone who has held like their lover or like a parent or like a family member or a really close friend in their arms and watched them pass. Like I'm like that would be like that's like it's so hard for me to fathom that.
It is, yes. And this is why I'm like, I don't go to funerals. But
Yeah.
funerals is not the problem. And I think that's one of the lessons I guess I've learned is that it's when someone passes, we don't see it. We
Yeah.
usually hear about it.
Hmm.
And yet we'll feel sad that they've passed, but we didn't have to be in the room and watch as life has left their bodies.
Yeah.
That is a transformative experience, and not one that I would say is, I can't say it's negative or positive to be
Right.
honest. it's just a transformative process to witness.
Yeah, because I
Um,
think it's totally terrifying. It's scary. It's upsetting. It's depressing, and it's also very, very beautiful.
it is. It really is. Can I ask, which might be painful, and you can tell me, shut up, Curtis. You're out here 2 hours from the nearest town in a desert. I think you're in a desert in a
Hmm.
camper with a Bolero who has now passed away.
Yeah.
What did you have to do afterward?
Um, so me and my partner discussed it. I was like, we should take like what I had originally said was like, let's take him to a hospital to find out like what happened. They might be able to tell us and blah blah blah. And what she had wanted was not that. She didn't want um like a hospital involved in any way. So we covered him in his favorite blanket and we put him into his carrier away from his brother. It's not like blood brothers, but that they were bonded pair.
Yeah,
Um, and we could tell that he was a bit upset as well, a little bit. It was kind of hard because like every single thing his brother would do, we'd be like, is that a sign that you're like really sad? Like we'd question every single thing he would do, even if he did it like every single day when he was alive. Like every single behavior he did, we questioned. But and then we drove to another spot in the desert. We got a little cactus with a flower on it, and we drove to another camping spot that we had been to before and picked a tree that we loved and dug a hole, a really deep hole, and buried and had our own little ceremony for Bolero there. Buried him there, covered him with rocks and dirt and stuff like that from the hole, and then we planted the cactus on top.
love.
I have the coordinates of it. I had yet to go back to it, but one day I'll go and adventure back out that way and go visit him.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah, it was
It's
a
very
very very. The one thing that I found was really weird is like I can't remember what the name of it is, like Rigus month. I
rigor
don't know
mortis.
what. Thank you. That is weird. Where the whole body is stiff.
Hardened, yeah.
Yeah,
It's I didn't experience this with Nima, but I have seen it
yeah.
before, and it's not lovely because they're, and this is not to make light, but they're no longer squishy.
No,
Do you know what I
like
mean? Like they're no longer cuddly and things like
like
that. Now they're just hard.
if you were to press on concrete and you were to press on that body, it would be the exact same feeling. It's
It's yeah, it's very
weird.
strange.
The first time that it happened, I thought that he came back to life because I was like, oh my God, he's flexing. And then my partner, who was a previous paramedic, told me, no, that's just part of the dying process. And I was like, it was like everything I was hoping just like pulled out from underneath me again. But yeah,
It's
so then yeah, that that after that, I could tell me and my partner from that moment on, like before we were having troubles and like weren't lining up eye to eye on like where we wanted to go with life and that sort of thing. Like we were slowly starting to grow apart, and I think that piece there was another checkpoint of us starting to split off a little bit more. And so once we got back, while we were on our travels, I had interviews for this position that I'm in now. And when we got back into Canada, one of my family friends passed away. So she drove me to the Calgary airport and I flew from Calgary because we were going back up to Edmonton. I flew from Calgary over to Vancouver to go to their funeral. And when I was over there in Vancouver, the this position, my boss had reached out to me to tell me um, that they want to do an extended interview in um, California because they had like their training weeks going on. And so me and one other person that I was interviewing against went down to California and basically had an extended interview for 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
No pressure. No pressure at all.
Right? Right? I know. And so like when they did that, I was immersed into the entire company. Like every single pilot was there, every single mechanic was there, like the people who own the company were there, the family, and my coworker was also there, and so like I'm like not even a part of this company yet, but I'm like coming in interviewing for the position. It was the weirdest experience ever because I was like, I have to get along with this person that I'm interviewing against, and um, I'm kind of like competing with this person at the same time, and I'm meeting like, I don't know, it felt like hundreds of people at once. Like it was weird, but it was the
And you had
first
to
time.
perform, I'm assuming.
And what, sorry?
You had to perform.
Yes, yes. I had to bring forward like my best self in this moment after everything that just happened. And honestly, though, it was everything I needed in that moment because I was around people who loved their job. I was around people who were super driven. I was around people who wanted to just have fun, and the company treated us very, very well while we were there. It was just like I was so taken care of, and I was having so much fun. I was doing things that were such an adrenaline rush, like being on a plane while it's dropping water. Like that's nuts. It's nuts, crazy, and it's so cool. And it was just like after the beginning of the year, it was just like it felt like everything was so hard and dark and heavy. Yes, I got to work with like lacrosse and rugby, but they weren't like solid positions. They were like I was still clawing and fighting through other videographers and photographers to have those positions. And this just like it felt like home as soon as I was there and working with these people. And I think being there and then coming back to Vancouver to rest for a few days, in that moment, I realized I didn't want to go back to Edmonton. And that's where my partner was.
We're going to talk more about that. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
This month, join our Valentine's Quilt Sweepstakes, hosted by Pada My Noggin and made by CK Sims. Enter for the chance to win the Valentine's Quilt and matching pillow by subscribing to Pada My Noggin's YouTube channel. The sweepstakes will run from February 1st to February 28th, when the winner will be announced. Additionally, you can receive 10 extra entries by purchasing the Easy Beginners Digital Quilt Pattern Valentine's Edition. Check out the sweepstakes rules below and access the link in the description to enter today.
Partner today with CK Sims and Pod and My Noggin to get in front of an audience that cares. You will be supporting mental health stories, tales of resilience, and uplifting content, aligning your brand with bringing goodness, authenticity, and kindness front and center. This spot could be yours. Do you have a story of struggle and resilience? One that you want to share with others and possibly help someone through their own struggles? Find the link in the show description and fill out the guest form today.
Welcome back, everybody. Before the break, we were talking to my favorite guest ever, Jenn Lord, about what seems to be the first half of 2024. And it was a lot of ups and downs, but there were some really great moments in there, but then there were some very sad moments in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just finishing talking about how the current job she's working for, she had to go down for 10 days to California with the person that she was up against, play nice, and perform her best. To me, that sounds like it would be, well, I guess depending on the situation, right? So you went down, you did your 10 days. Did you find out before leaving if you had the job? So you had to come home still without, and how was the relationship with your person that you were fighting against, if you will?
It was honestly great. Like, we kind of both came into it with the same mind space of like, it's funny, we ended up coming up with the saying because everyone at the company would be like, oh, like, who are you? What do you do at the company? And then we'd explain, we're like, oh, we're actually in an extended interview right now for a position. And they'd be like, oh, okay, so like do you have like the job or anything? Like, do you know? And we'd both turn to each other and we'd go, maybe. Like, and so like anytime someone would ask us a question, we ended up answering maybe to like everything because we were like, I don't know what's happening. And they'd be like, are you coming back here tomorrow? And we'd be like, maybe, I don't know. We don't know what's
Very fair.
happening. Yeah. And so yeah. And so we joked the whole time saying like, we didn't know what was happening, when we'd find out, what we were doing the next day or anything like that, or if we'd ever see anyone again. And so like our relationship was great. We actually had like quite a lot of open conversations and stuff like that. And I tend to undersell my skills a little bit, which is why freelancing was also one of the reasons why freelancing was also really hard for me, because I would undersell and have to like, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't ask for a fair rate for myself to be able to live. And he actually told me what his day rates were and stuff like that. And I was like, thank you for being so honest. And like, this is actually really helpful. And that sort of stuff. So we actually helped each other while we were interviewing against each other. Yeah.
I love that because you know what? Yes, you're both interviewing for the same job, but you can still be humans and kind and develop camaraderie in that process.
Yeah.
And so you come back to Canada. You had just been to Vancouver to attend a funeral. You've flown down for 10 days. You're back in Vancouver, resting, and you realize at that time that you didn't want to go back to Edmonton where your partner was.
Yes. I had actually, one of my best friends lives in the Vancouver area, and she took me out for coffee, and I made a comment saying, I wish she would just break up with me. And my best friend turned to me and was like, honey, I think that's a sign that your relationship's kind of come to the end. And you need to be brave enough and you need to be strong enough and kind enough to make that split. Because continuing on holding on to a relationship where I want out, and I found out later she also wanted out, isn't kind to either party.
No. But, so you did it.
We did it.
You jammed up and you did it.
Yeah, we split. And the day we split up, the following day, I got a phone call from Colson saying, you got the job. And when can you move out here? I like 24 hours.
Okay, hold up 1 second. No. We need to back this train up for a second. Do you not live in Vancouver anymore?
No.
You live in California?
No, I don't.
Where do you live now? I'm so confused.
Vancouver Island.
Vancouver Island. Okay, so you still are in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was like, because I did notice that when you joined the call today that you have a very nice glow about you, that you got a little bit of sun. And I was like, I'm like, damn, she's looking good. But there are other things that I saw on your Instagram today that I was like, what? And scrolling through, I'm like, what? I'm like, when did this happen? Like, not that we've never met in person, but like, you have washboard abs. I strive for this. And like, muscles. And then you have a picture of your legs that are way more muscular than my legs, and I do 25 squats with a 50-pound thingy a day. And I'm like, what the sweet hell is this woman doing? And then I saw a post about movement and then CrossFit, and I'm like, oh, CrossFit. I'm like, CrossFit's too much of a commitment for me, but like I was really blown away by just your strength and muscular. Like I was like, damn. I'm like, I do not want to get into. I don't want to get into a brawl with Jenn before. And I definitely don't want to get into a brawl with Jenn now. I want Jenn
Yeah.
as like a wing lady if I go to a bar, like a straight bar,
I
and I
got
just
your
want to
back.
go out a little bit. And then somebody's like giving me the stink eye, then Jenn's gonna be like flexing her quads and like, come here. So were you always into fitness like that? Or was this a 2024 thing or
No, I got into CrossFit in 2016.
2016?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then 2020 hit. I took a break for about 4 years, but I kept doing like mountain biking, rock climbing, going to the gym here and there. And then since moving to Vancouver Island, I started up CrossFit again.
Y'all, at Jenn Lord Media Instagram, if you want to see quads, all you fellas out there with the big upper bodies and those chicken legs, you need to go see Jenn Lord's freaking legs so you know what legs are supposed to look like. Like, because I feel like you could squash coconuts between those. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to be inappropriate or because we live in that kind of time right now, but I was just so impressed by the level of muscle. And then I'm like, that is my 2025 goal. It's that I will fly to Vancouver at some point, Vancouver Island,
Come on
so
over.
that we can both wear cute like short shorts and flex our leg muscles.
Yes, please.
And but you're going to win. I know this. You moved to Vancouver Island. You started the job at Colson. Regrettably, the other lady didn't get it.
Didn't get it. No,
I'm sure they're doing well.
I
We
think
wish
so.
them very
Yeah,
much well.
yeah.
But then I see something on your Instagram. Something very lovely, very kind, very cute, very mushy. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, this is so cool. So like I shit you not. Today when I was going through your Instagram and catching up, because some of the posts you've made I've seen already, like the one in the plane. Now, mind you, I will get to that in a second, but I had thought I'd seen a post of you flying a plane.
Yeah, so one of my friends who is getting their license, he has some type of license and he's going for another license. But yeah, he let me take off in the plane and let me fly a little bit while we were in the air. It was really awesome.
It looked awesome, and
Yeah.
like it would be massive adrenaline in that moment.
Yes, because I'm like
And
watching the end of the runway coming. He's like, you need to start pulling up, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, got it.
and then there was a night view.
Hmm.
Oh,
He was
that was
going like it, he was like in like the way that he was making that plane go up and down and side to side. I was like, are you not worried this thing's gonna break? And he's like, no, planes are awesome. And I was like, planes are awesome.
these are awesome. So tell us what happens next after you move to the island and start your new role and that sort of thing.
So I moved to the island and started working with like my first project with the company was like they're called the Martin Mars planes. They're really big on Vancouver Island, and that was awesome. Got to experience a lot of aviation culture through that Mars and that project. And then my work then took me all throughout the States, like kind of like mid to west side of the States. And I guess during those travels, while I was on Facebook dating, I matched with this unbelievably stunning and beautiful girl. And she lives in California and I live in Port. And what's funny about it is I thought I set my settings to like Vancouver Island, basically, like a couple kilometer distance radius and like 28 years old to like 37 years old, like in that range. And she told me her settings were strictly set to like a 10-mile-ish radius to like Orange County, which is kind of like LA area, and no one under the age of 30. I'm 27. And
Theory.
yeah.
While you were filming, though,
Yeah.
I feel like Cupid was flying with you. You guys were catching, air at the same time. And he was like, oh, look at here. Look here. I'm just gonna like put my fingers in the frequency and mix some stuff up. And
Yep. And so apparently she saw my pictures and on my bio I had no words. I was like, what I had said to myself when I was making the profile, I was like, I wonder if I can capture my essence in just photos that I've taken. And so I curated my photos to try and capture my goofy side, creative side, adventurous side, and my menace/chaos side. And she said that she came across my profile. She's like, I came across this 27-year-old profile that had no words and lived like thousands of miles away. She was like, she had no words. She violated both my rules of being under 30 and being long distance. And so she was like, she closed the app after she saw me and she was like, nope, not doing it. And then like couldn't stop thinking about the photos. This is all her words. I'm not pumping my own stuff up here. She said she couldn't stop thinking about it, so she opened up the app again, saw my profile, and she was like, no, I can't do it. And she closed the app again. And then I think it was like the third time, reopened the app, and she was like, I can't get this girl out of my mind. And so she was like, she literally looks like she's my wife. And so she swiped and we started having a conversation with her, or she popped up on my feed. I swiped. I thought she was the most gorgeous girl. And we started chatting from there. And it's been amazing.
So I am a huge Jen proponent and also gay, but you are seriously hot. We know this. Like, we'll establish this right now. You've always been beautiful. I thought you were beautiful the first time I saw you on social media, even more beautiful when we got to chat during the podcast the first time.
Yeah.
Because I got to see more of your natural self. And then the things that you post, your vulnerability, the chaotic stuff, the cute stuff, the weird stuff, because there's some weird stuff. I just love it. I eat it up because I think it's just fantastic. So like, I don't know. I'm like, how have you two tried to explain how it happened? Like, how have you tried to reconcile?
We still don't entirely know, but we went back through my settings, and my settings were actually set to 400 plus mile range. And basically anyone that was legal, so like 18 to 101 plus.
So it must have been 400 plus miles of where you were currently located within that range, because there's more than 400 miles from Vancouver Island to
Well, I think that's where the plus comes in real strong.
Yeah, really. But I mean, but her settings are still set the way they were.
I'm wondering if it was like because I was in the area crossing by.
I like my Cupid method.
I do like your Cupid method.
I think that he's just flying along up there with you, and he's like, oh, Jen, She deserves a win. So, okay, you're chatting with this lady on, you both think each other's gorgeous, clearly.
Hmm.
You're chatting with her on Facebook dating. And you live in Vancouver Island and she lives in Orange County. How did you determine this was going to work?
Well, we decided we had to like meet in person first. Um, so we chatted for probably about a month, and then we decided that she was going to come up and visit me in Vancouver Island. And so our first date, our first like technical date was 10 days long. And it went really, really well. And so we thought we would do it again. And I think I go down to California all the time for work. So it works out super, super well. Um, but I think we're pretty sure it's kind of foggy because so much has happened. But I'm pretty sure our second date was her coming with me on one of the firefighting aircrafts. We had to ferry it from California to Australia for the Australian wildfire season. And so our technical like second or third date was taking her from California all the way to Australia and spending a week in Australia together.
Okay, Jen. So you just make everybody else look bad. Go big or go home. I'm going to lock this lady down by taking her on a 1 week trip to Australia. Come on.
It's
How
technically
could
like
anyone
roughly like 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
that was when, this summer-ish?
Yeah. Like yeah, roughly. I think it was like October. October.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now
And now it's like we are full out dating. We are full out talking about our future together. She's met my family. I've met her family. We both love each other's family. Both our families love the other. And hopefully I can transfer to the States, maybe, or work out something that I'm like half in Canada, half down here. I don't know. That part is
wow.
still up for like I have to have conversations with the company that I work with. But yeah,
Well, they hired you in Canada. I don't see why they wouldn't hire you in the States.
right?
Right? So, but that is exciting.
Yeah.
That is exciting. I'm very happy for you because I think and I'm very happy for her too. And I don't even know her, but like she's the one that got Jenn Lord, right? In the end.
She's
What?
amazing. I think it's
You
what I got her.
Well, there you go. But I guess that would depend on whomever I'm having an interview with, right? Who's going to be gushing the most, or claiming they got them, or they're the lucky
Yeah.
one. So I think it's just wonderful. So you had a rough part of the first half of the year, and then the second half of the year has just been crazy adventure after adventure.
It's been adventure after adventure.
And so now you're in this place you're working for this organization called Colson.
Hmm.
You're their videographer.
There's three of us here.
Three of us, okay. You film wildfires and things like that. And you were just recently, and we can't talk about any of the particulars, but you were just recently in LA during the LA fire. What was that like?
It all happened like very, very fast. My girlfriend's name is Sydney. She was actually up in port with me when they broke out, and she flew out. I can't remember. I think it was on the 9th. She flew out from Vancouver to go back home, and I was up in port. And my coworker that was already down there filming had asked for some more help to come and film like the fires and stuff like that. And so on the 9th, I found out I was able to go down for the 10th. So then got back onto Vancouver Island because she flew out of Vancouver, got back on the island, packed up my suitcase, and then left at like 3 o'clock in the morning to go catch a flight down to LA. So it started off chaotic to start up, to say the least. And got down there, and from the commercial flight down to LA, you could see the plumes of smoke from this fire. And like it was like it gives you goosebumps looking at it. It was huge. Um and it was like my first time with the company working on like a fire like this of this
Yeah.
capacity and stuff like that. And so I come down and get situated with where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. And one of the things that I was doing was going around and trying to capture content of our aircrafts working on the fire. I have never come across so many. The scariest night was probably the first and second night that I was there, which would have been like the 10th evening and the 11th evening. The 11th evening was the night that I went out driving around to capture content of our aircrafts working. And um, every single neighborhood that I was driving up through, people were outside their houses, like with hoses spraying down their houses, the lawns, the trees, everything. You drive up the street and there'd be like streams of water coming down the road. It was a very, and you look up and all you see is like a giant glow of red and orange and these big dark gray clouds like pluming up to the sky. And it was like so nerve wracking driving around. And I was like, it's not even like I'm in a car that I could easily just drive away. The one thing that was in my mind was like, I am in LA, so if everyone tries to leave at once, the entire population of California is the population of Canada.
Yes.
And most of the population of California is in the LA area and Southern Cal. You wouldn't be going very fast anywhere if things got really bad, like
No.
to the point where everyone was evacuating. But yeah, so I would get up on a drive and there was police blockades everywhere because of all the looting that was happening and obviously people trying to get into places that they're not supposed to be to film these aircrafts and people trying to get close to the fires for like social media posts and whatever else they were trying to do. And so like it was quite interesting and like talking to a lot of the police officers that were at each barricade and stuff like that. They're like we've had a lot of people coming trying to get through here for a multitude of different reasons. And like even when I was talking to homeowners in the areas that I was going to go film, they were telling me that they're like some of them were really anxious because people kept driving into their home areas where I'm sure most people in those neighborhoods, they're very, very nice neighborhoods that I was driving through, don't get this much traffic and foot traffic and car traffic all the time. So it's probably putting them on edge. Not only they potentially losing their home and evacuating, there's a bunch of random strangers constantly circling around their houses and trying to get into probably like their backyards or their front yards to film at a better angle and stuff like that. Um, so like the energy those first few days I was there, it was super tense and super heavy.
Yep.
It was
It sounds that
wild.
way.
Yeah.
Plus the uncertainty because winds were changing and destroying neighborhoods
Mhm.
like that. Like it was so fast. I remember when I reached out and you said you were down there. I think
Yeah.
I must have said every single time, I'm like, just be careful.
Yeah.
Like, I like whispering prayers and like keep everybody safe. What I didn't realize though was that there was looting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. There was actually a lot of looting that was happening. I think it was more on the Palisades side, like the neighborhood that had burnt down, where there's like easier to get to people's like properties and stuff like that and take what was still left standing. Um, but I'm sure that was happening on the other side where homes were still standing and people were just evacuating to be safe. There's a lot of empty homes there.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's a lot of people on edge during that, which is wild. And one of the evenings when the fires had died down a little bit, I had gone up to where I was allowed to go to film our aircrafts. Um, it was called Mulholland Drive, is like the road that I was on, and looking, it was nighttime, so it was quite dark, so I couldn't quite see like what was on either side. Like there was a city on one side, and then this side was like to my right was where the fires had roughly been taking place, a few like miles down. And at one point, I could see like firefighters creating a fire line to stop the spread of fires and get the containment line longer. And I could see them working like really far in the distance. And so I was like, oh, it might be a cool like long exposure shot. So I set my camera up and took a photo for a long exposure. And I didn't know this because you couldn't see it because it was too dark, but there was like a huge red retardant line from one of the big planes. It probably was the DC-10 tanker that had dropped along the trees and the shrubbery and all that sort of stuff. And what was really cool in that photo is you can see everything that was burnt on the left-hand side of it. And it's like this huge retardant line. And then it was just green on the other side. And it was like, wow, that really works. Like, I know it works. But I was like,
I always wonder to myself, I'm like, what kind of chemicals are in there?
oh yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I don't know what's in it, but I'm sure it's not like the most amazing thing. But it stops the fire, which fire is one of the most like toxic ways that, or like it releases like forest fires and like natural fires and stuff like that are one of the biggest CO2 producers in the world.
Yes.
That's one thing I found out with this company. Go ahead.
It's crazy to me to think that you were down there filming on Mulholland Drive of all places. Were you by yourself at this time?
At that time, yeah, I was, but my coworker had
the
my
quads.
location.
It's the quads. It's fearless. It's the quads. I'm glad that you got back safe. My heart goes out to everybody involved in those fires, the firefighters that have been helping everybody who's lost or been displaced because of it. And I know that there's such a divide on the internet where it comes to like, well, you know, these are wealthy people. Not everyone
Not
is wealthy.
everyone. Yeah.
Or to like go fly to a different city and stay there until things, you know,
Yeah.
get fixed. There are going to be a lot of displaced people who are waiting for insurance checks that probably won't come because a lot of insurance companies canceled their insurance policies. So it's just, when it happens, it's just really devastating to think about. Like, it's not just the fire, it's people's livelihoods, people's homes. There are things that are absolutely priceless that can never be replaced, even with an insurance check, right?
Yeah.
The people who got out with their lives, yes, I'm very happy for that. But you got back safe.
I did.
You said her name is Leslie?
Sydney.
Sydney, I was so close. Yeah, perfect. I was right on the nose there. Sydney, she's safe as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're potentially planning a move to the US. We'll see how that plays out. But what's next for you? Are you just living right now in the moment? Like, are you enjoying your job, your relationship, that sort of thing?
Honestly, loving everything right now. Everything is going so well. There's, of course, roadblocks and like bumps in the road. One of the biggest hurdles right now is like, what am I doing? It's like to keep our relationship alive. We both want to make this work. So what is the next step for that? So it's like the biggest roadblock right now. But currently, career going well. Friends and family all doing well. My relationship with her is amazing. And yeah, as for what comes next, I have no idea because I could get a text message tomorrow being like, hey, Jen, we want you back down in California. Or hey, Jen, we want you going to Australia or Chile. Wherever the company is working, I could get a text tomorrow and they'll be like, we want you out there, like get on the next flight.
Very exciting, but also sounds slightly stressful life because the sort of uncertainty and need to respond so quickly. But I feel like that's very up your alley. Whereas I'm very much like, you can message me about something that may take place 8 weeks from now, and I will consider it because I like my health. You seem to be really in the headspace to just like drop and go, and
I love it.
And honestly, I don't know if it's the California sun. Not that you might have got very much if you were in the fires, but you do have a glow with you.
Oh,
Just so
thank
you know, it's you look you're not blonde this year. You're
Nope.
more of a brunette.
It's my natural.
Yeah, you look so healthy, and you have this beautiful glow. I feel very grateful to have had this interview with you again, to get the chance to speak with you. I will keep in touch, of course, but like, just anticipate January of each year. You're probably gonna get a message being like, "Come on the show, catch me up, tell me what's going on."
I'd love to.
Everyone at home, Jenn Lord Media, at Jenn Lord Media, on Instagram. I believe TikTok is the exact same. You can go
Jenn Lord _.
Jenn Lord _. Oh, geez. Okay, so it's at Jenn Lord _. Thanks, Jenn Lord, for telling me. If you want to see incredible photography, and I do mean this because it is incredible, go there. Look through her reels, her photos. Like, she has some incredible stuff there. I'm so happy that you got a position with this company where you get to use your skills, pay your bills, all of those wonderful things, and thrive and meet perhaps the love of your life, right? Yeah. So I'm very happy about that. I'm very glad that things are working out the way that they are. Thank you again for coming on the show. And for everybody else at home, go out there and live your wildest dreams. I'll see you next time.
For media and sponsorship inquiries, email info@cksims.com or visit cksims.com and fill out the contact form. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode airs every Saturday. CKS Media.